The wind carried the scent of pine and dust, rolling down from the far mountains, brushing the dry grass in long whispers. Eleanor Briggs stood alone on the ridge, the black folds of her dress swaying against her legs. Below, the prairie stretched like an ocean of gold, its waves frozen in the late summer heat. Her bonnet shaded most of her face, but the rancher on the far side of the valley could see her well enough through the glass of his spy. He knew her by the way she held herself, straight, unmoving, like a stake driven into the earth. Something moved at her side. At first, he thought it was a dog, some stray that had taken a liking to her. But the rounded ears, the shambling gait, it was no dog. It was a bear cub, autumn brown, fur patchy in the light, dark eyes fixed on her as though she were the only safe thing in the world. Luke Callahan had buried enough livestock to know a bear cub meant a mother somewhere nearby. But there was no mother here, only the widow and that small shadow pressed close to her skirts. The next morning, he found her by the creek, kneeling where the water rippled over pale stones. The cub pawed at the shallows, making little grunts as minnows scattered. She had a bundle in her arms, wrapped in a gray shawl, and she held it close, tighter than a woman might hold her own breath. "You're keeping it?" he asked from his saddle. Her eyes stayed on the water. "It's keeping me." The cub gave a soft, throaty sound, leaning into her. Luke's gaze drifted to the bundle, but she shifted, tucking it further into the crook of her elbow. "Wild things don't stay tame," he said. "They grow teeth, claws." Her gaze met his. "So do people." By the time word spread in town, the story had already grown teeth of its own. The widow Briggs had gone mad, folks said. She'd taken in a bear cub. Children whispered about it outside the mercantile, men at the saloon shook their heads. The old women clucked their tongues and said grief could make a person strange. None of them knew what Luke learned in pieces. 2 weeks before her husband's death, Eleanor had gone with him into the mountains to trade at a mining camp. Snow had come early that year, hard and sudden. They'd taken shelter in a cave, shivering in the dark, until the sound of claws on stone froze them in place. A bear, full grown, a mother, had come for them. In the chaos, Eleanor had lost her footing, lost the bundle in her arms. When she came to, the storm had gone, her husband's blood soaking the cold stone. She crawled out into the gray light, searching for what she'd lost, and found only the cub, alone and mewling. She had taken it, because she could not bear to leave it behind. Luke came to her homestead with a sack of flour and coffee, saying it was neighborly concern, though he knew it was something else. The cub was bigger now, its paws heavy when it followed her from room to room. "You can't keep it," Luke said as he set the supplies down on her rough-hewn table. "When it grows, it'll be dangerous." Her hand rested on the shawl. "Some things are worth the danger." He almost asked what was inside, but the look in her eyes told him not to. Trouble rode in late that summer. 3 men came down from the hills, lean, dusty, rifles across their saddles. They stopped at her fence, calling for her. Luke was there by chance, mending a gate. "We hear you've got a bear cub," the leader said, spitting into the dirt. "That's worth money in Helena." Luke stepped forward. "Ain't for sale. Didn't ask you, rancher." Eleanor came out, the cub at her side, the bundle in her arms. "It's not leaving here," she said, voice flat and cold. The men's eyes lingered on the shawl. Luke didn't like it. There was something in the way they looked at it, as if they knew a secret he didn't. That night, Luke lay in bed, half asleep, until a glow through the window burned him awake. He was in the saddle before his boots were fully on, riding hard toward the widow's place. The barn was already roaring, flames clawing into the sky. Smoke stung his eyes as he saw the cub backed against the house, snarling, 2 men trying to rope it. Eleanor stood on the porch, rifle in one hand, the bundle in the other. She dropped one man before he could turn, then swung toward the second. By the time Luke reached her, both were gone, one into the dark, one into the ground. In the gray morning, with the barn nothing but char and ash, Luke asked the question he'd held back for weeks. "What's in the bundle, Eleanor?" Her hands shook. "You'll think I'm mad. Try me." She knelt and slowly unwrapped the shawl. Inside were the small, clean bones of an infant, wrapped in faded cloth. "I found her in the cave after the storm," she whispered. "The bear must have kept her warm through the night, but she was gone when I woke. This cub was beside her. Maybe it was all I had left of her." Luke felt the weight of her grief settle into him. Not madness, just a wound too deep to close. The sheriff came the next morning. The surviving rider claimed Eleanor had killed his partner over a wild animal. Luke stood between her and the law. That man set her barn on fire, Luke said. That cub was hers. The sheriff looked at her, at the cub pressed to her side, at the bundle in her arms. Something in his eyes shifted, recognition, or mercy. Reckon the matter's closed, he said. But that bear won't be safe here long. Eleanor knew it, the cub was growing into what it was meant to be. Soon, the wild would call it away, or turn it dangerous. Before sunrise one morning, she saddled her horse. The cub trotted beside her as she headed toward the mountains. Luke caught up to her on the ridge. You don't have to do it alone. I do, she said. She belongs here. In a high valley, the cub stopped, looking between her and the treeline. She set the bundle on a flat stone, as if giving her child back to the earth. The cub sniffed it once, then padded into the shadows of the pines. Weeks later, Luke saw her again on the ridge. The wind moved her skirts, the horizon stretched endless before them. She didn't speak, and he didn't need her to. Somewhere in the far distance, at the edge of the trees, a great shape moved, a bear, large and wild, watching over her still.